Behind me is our 250 series LandCruiser Prado. Now, this car we've had for a few weeks. We've developed a package for this vehicle. I guess the big question is, has this Prado earned the LandCruiser badge that's on the back? Let's go find out. Okay, so our 250 series Prado is a GLX. It's one of the base models that they bring out in this model. I like it because it comes with a lot of extras that other GXL models in the Toyota range don't come with. However, it's been fitted with a set of method wheels, Toyo tyres that are on that. The boys from All Sort Mechanical sorted that out for us, did an amazing job. It's now getting sorted with J-Max suspension, which will be happening very shortly, so I'm excited to see what happens in that space. Engine-wise, this is a 2.8 litre, 4-cylinder turbo diesel that has been around for some years now. It's in the Hilux, but more or less it's actually very similar to what's in the GDJ in the 79 series. It has an 8-speed transmission in it. It has some pretty cool functions. This model of car has actually come out with AdBlue, so that's something else, as well as the 48-volt hybrid system that's in this model. It lacks a bit of power, but we're going to sort that out with our packages. Other than that, it's a beautiful car. It's a great starting point. I think anyone that would buy a Prado would definitely be happy with it. So now let's go for a drive and I'll tell you about my first impressions. We've done about 1,600 kilometers in this car. I've only had the car for probably around 2 weeks now. We've got some interesting fuel consumption figures. We're getting around 1,000 Ks to a tank, and you got to understand that this new Prado has the 48-volt system, which is what's come out in some of the models of the Hiluxes. So it's a little bit interesting. The hybrid system's not traditionally like it is in the Priuses or the Tundras. It's obviously a lot different in that aspect. This is very similar engine to the GDJ, which is the same size, same engine. There is some slight little differences, nothing major, but it actually drives very similar to the 79 series as far as the power goes, the transmission, everything about it is very similar. If you were to say, is it similar to a Hilux? Well, I would say it's more similar to the actual 79 series. So I do believe with that platform, the strategy around the shifting and everything else is very similar to that. So it drives very well for what it is. It just lacks power, as they all do from factory. Put your foot down, nothing really happens. There's not real much grunt there. So that makes it, you know, a little bit boring to drive. But the system itself is helping with parasitic loss, with basically putting power back through the alternator and assisting in that, especially within takeoff and certain load points areas. But it's only ever very, very light throttle load input that it actually is active. Everything else around that, on decel, it charges again by using the alternator, by charging the battery back up. So it's a pretty cool little system. Does it make a big impact overall on the car? Yeah, look, I don't think it's huge. I think maybe if you were looking at it, there'd be a few percent there that would help in as far as consumption goes, but maybe that's all that Toyota needed at the time to have this system in place. Does it really affect the way the car, or can you notice it? I can't notice it the slightest. I've driven a lot of these, not so much the 250, but the Hiluxes with the 48-volt system as well as without it, and I still to this day cannot tell when it's active or not. So it's really just taking a minimal parasitic loss out of that engine. But overall, I love the fact that intuitively that Toyota have developed something that's pretty cool. The car itself drives pretty well. Suspension-wise, obviously the boys at J-Max are doing a kit at the moment, so we'll be looking at putting some suspension in. One of the go-to things for all the cars that we have, just to try and make them drive a bit better. One of the things I did notice when I first drove this car, and this annoyed me a lot, was when I first took off, from the very first day I drove it, I felt the harshness and the vibration of the engine through the drivetrain, through the throttle pedal. Now, I've mentioned this to several people and they all think I'm a bit crazy because they can't really notice it. But I guess when you're driving a lot of different cars over the years, you tend to feel the way the car drives. And I felt that this was probably not as smooth in that area. It definitely felt like I could feel the harshness of the car. Was it a downside? Well, not hugely, but again, it's something that I noticed straight away, which, you know, coming from the 300 series, it's beautiful. You feel nothing. It's very smooth. It's amazing car to drive. So you can definitely see the price point for paying extra. There's just those little things that you tend to get. This is a GXL, so it's a baseline car. I think value for money, what you get in this car, I think we paid around $85,000 for this car. For what you get in this car, I think is, you know, in this day and age, great value for money. Being that it's a baseline model, it still comes with, you know, the leather seats, and, you know, the dash is beautiful, and I love the fact that you've got, you know, car Apple Play now, which is awesome. Everything about it with, you know, you've still got heated and cooled seats and the full drive system, and Really, between all the models, what I can see is different is the dash looks a little bit different, but functionality-wise, I like it. It tells you what you need to know, and it works really, really well. Something else that's really interesting with this car, and I'm changing this back to a 300 series because that's what I'm used to driving. The lane assist on this, I don't have to turn off. It's nowhere near as aggressive. It just gives you a little vibration through the steering wheel, but doesn't make you go crazy across the road like the 300 series would do. So that's something that has definitely improved between the two models. They do have this little camera here, and apparently it's focuses on your face and gives you little warnings that come up on the dash. If you're looking towards a different direction for too long, it'll tell you to, buzz on the dash and tell you to keep looking forward. So I think from a safety point of view, that's great. I've turned it off on this car because it was annoying me. It's something that, I feel as though I didn't really need. But I'm really picking at little things here. I still think it's a beautiful car. I think it's a price point for a family. It's great. Yes, there's minimal room in the back with the 7 seats that are in this car, and there's minimal boot space. Once you put those seats up, it's, there's not really worth talking about, but so is the 300 series. When you put 7 seats in, you'd have very little room there as well. Overall, it's a comfy car, it's a nice car. It does lack power, so we'll be working on a package for this car. Currently, we want to get some Ks on it in stock form, just get an idea of how the car drives, how it operates, so we can then tailor a tune package suitable for this car for the person who's driving it. And that's something that we do with all of our cars. We just need to get an understanding if there's things that have changed, and I guess the little problems that we try and solve along the way to make it more pleasurable to drive. We'll definitely be looking at doing airboxes in exhaust and so forth. I think there's a lot of pluses we have with it, and the styling looks great. I think it's a beautiful looking car. It's a lot different to the previous model, but I think it goes with what's acceptable today, and I think they push the limits with their styling to make it look like a pretty awesome little car. For a family of 5 or 7, I think that it would be a great car to buy. Cost-wise, I think they're relative to what's in the market. The great thing about Toyota, it's going to have good resale value. Cruises along fine, fuel consumption's good. All in all, I think it's a great car. Okay, so back to the fun stuff that I really enjoy, and that is doing some R&D on what we're going to be developing for this model of car. A couple of things that we will be doing is an airbox. Now, looking at this airbox, it's very similar to what was in the GDJ in the 79 series, and we found some massive improvements by changing that airbox. It definitely helps with the restriction of flow, better filtration with a different filter, but also reduces that turbo speed down, so it helps overall improve performance. So that's something that we'll be looking at, and that's in the works at the moment. Second thing will be is to start looking into our multi-mapping with this car as we add to all of our models of cars. Again, a cruise control multi-mapping function that will be in that, as well as our easy lock-up kit that will be built into that around that transmission strategy, which is something that's very important for reducing those temperatures as far as the transmission goes. So the difference between the GDJ and the 79 series in the 2.8 and this particular 2.8 is the 79 series has a water-to-air intercooler. This has an air-to-air intercooler. And so far with our testing, we haven't seen any significant gains in changing that yet. But as we get through our package, we will start to see those results and see if it's worthwhile having an improvement by changing that. The next thing will be designing an exhaust. Now, what's different about this car is that we have definitely still the DPF in place, but we have AdBlue systems in that, so we have to look at that. So that's something that's new to us, and we have to get our head around and go through there. Probably the other feature that annoys me, that's something I'll have to get in the car and turn off every time I get in it, is the auto start function. So I'm gonna be looking at putting that into our system where we can turn that auto start function off completely, so you don't have to turn it off every time you get into the car. And what I mean by that is the car shuts off when you're at a set of traffic lights. It's there to help with consumption and emissions. However, for me, it's quite off-putting and it's annoying. So that's something that maybe I will look at turning off on my own car, and we'll see if that's something that people want. And if it is, we'll add that into the package also. But so far, first impressions, we've got some things to work on, and with some of the results that we get back from our testing, it'll be interesting to see where we go with that package. I'm excited, should be good. So any more information about the Prado or any of our packages that we have, please get in contact with our guys. They're more than happy to answer your phone calls, questions, anything you need to know about the Toyota vehicles we do, please contact them.